Love that you fuck with me now, cause you know I keep you around, yeah, you know that I mean it.
Hello and welcome to the Jordan Powers Experience, episode 6. My name is Jordan Powers, and yes, I'm still doing intros from my balcony because I kind of liked it, and it's easier when I can't get into the studio all the time. So here we are. Episode 6 is with the one and only Baylan Mcgraw. Baylan is a lead singer in a metal band named Ugly, as well as a fashion designer doing what he describes as denim scratching, basically putting tattoo-like designs into denim jackets and just threading them in there. It's like very, very cool. Highly recommend you go check his stuff over at Denim Scratcher and over at Ugly to the Core on Instagram. And Baylan is a man of many talents, and so we got into those many talents as well as his history as a snowboarder as well. Without further ado, let's just get a quick word from les sponsors, starting with Oakham Cannabis. Oakham Cannabis is a privately owned, family-run craft producer located in Kelowna, BC. In their facility, they are determined to produce the highest quality of bud in their state-of-the-art Roto-Grow rotational gardening system, as well as premium full-spectrum CO2 extracted oil, all done in-house with their Apex extraction unit. All growing is done indoors using a hydroponic system to create a clean and controlled growing environment. Oakham has been producing clean, high-quality, high-THC cannabis for almost 2 years, and their controlled conditions allow them to produce cannabis that is free of pesticides and mold without irradiating. They recycle water, employ organic practices, and are energy efficient. Keep an eye out for their first 2 products coming to the market, Smoke 'em and Discover. That should be coming to BC pretty soon. So yeah, check them out. Our second sponsor is Garnish Barware. Garnish Barware is trusted behind some of Canada's busiest cocktail bars. They do custom engraved barware and flasks and all this other cool stuff. So whether you are a at-home cocktail maker like myself or you are working behind a bar, make sure you go down to www.garnishbarware.com and get your custom engraved barware kits done from them. They're a local Kelowna brand. My man Griffin is running them. So yeah, check them out. So, without wasting any more time, enjoy my conversation with Baylan Mcgraw.
He's gonna take a fucking break.
Yeah, I kind of need to take a break pretty soon here.
It's good, man. Honestly, it's been great. I haven't been like stoned or drunk in 2 fucking weeks straight, and it's very clearing. It turns out. Yeah,
It's shocking.
Who would have thought? Not consuming substances keeps you level-headed.
Well, let's get into it.
It's a
3,
trip.
2, 1.
Check. We good?
Baylan,
Hello.
what's going on, man?
I'm sitting here looking at you. How are you?
I'm doing good. I wanted to do this on camera because
Yeah.
finally got it. I always miss the snap when I hang out with you.
I love that. This is also, I realized this on the way over here. It's the first time you and I have hung out one-on-one ever, and we're recording it. So that's kind of a trip.
That is kind of a trip. I haven't thought about that.
Right?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple times where I've been sitting at your bar and I've
Yeah, very true, very true. But like outside of like either of our work circumstances and shit, this is a first. So,
That's wild.
So now we're documenting it.
Well, welcome, episode 6
yeah.
of the Jordan Powers Experience.
Episode 666, baby. That's fucking
Yeah, that's almost perfect for you.
Right?
Eh? I'll have to get you to come back on for 666 if I keep going that long.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, man, I don't even know where to start with you because you were described to me by Sean as the ultimate Renaissance man in town. Sean over at Grey Hearts.
He would. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean, but like, thank you, Sean.
That means you're a man of many, many talents. So where would you like to start?
Oh, dude. That's your show. You're just gonna hand me the mic like that.
Yeah.
Well, you said you wanted to talk about band stuff or fashion stuff.
Let's do band stuff right away because you just were dropping some new music with your band, right?
Yeah. So this is being recorded the day before our first song in over, I guess it's almost a year comes out.
Damn.
So our last time we put out music was in October, I guess.
And the name of the band is Ugly, correct?
Ugly. Yeah.
Ugly, not Ugly,
Absolutely.
correct? It's Ugly.
Ugly.
And
yeah.
you can go on Instagram and find them at Ugly to the Core.
That's the one.
Nailed it. So,
Yeah,
and you
'cause
two,
getting that handle is just ugly is
pretty
damn
fucking
near
difficult.
impossible, dude. Yeah, absolutely. We had to improvise a little bit. We're a bit of a hardcore band, so like the overall theme is like ugly music for ugly people. But it's more so taps into like everyone is ugly. Like,
Yeah.
Or I always yell at kids on stage like we're ugly and so are you.
Nice.
That's kind of the whole theme of it.
And you guys were wearing masks for the longest time, also, like before the pandemic.
I wear a mask on stage. Yeah, it's the rest of the guys kind of just run around and do crazy shit. But I'm up there like full on shirt off, mask on, just giving or choking myself out with a mic cord.
Damn.
Stupid shit like that. Yeah, it's pretty funny. I listened to too much Slipknot growing up, apparently.
Same, bro. Same.
Yeah, exactly.
Does the mask make you feel like you got a bit of like a persona for being on
for
stage?
sure.
Like
Yeah,
you get into character?
it's wicked. It's like full blown like character performance art kind of shit, right? It's like it's I don't even know. I've been asked this before. I don't know if I could do it without the mask on. It would be super awkward for me, I think, to go up there and like talk about what I'm talking about and putting the energy out the way I am without it, because it allows me to almost add a layer between like my true self and the audience, and just be like, okay, now you're looking at this. You're looking at this dude who is like almost like it's pretty ambiguous, because it's just like a black kind of mask covering most of my face. So I don't know whether it's like one of the like you see that part of me in yourself or whatever it is, but like the effect that it has is really interesting based on like, you know, conversations I've had with people after the show and stuff, like close friends of mine or people I don't know even, are going like, oh, dude, you're fucking terrifying up there. But then I get off stage and I'm just me. I'm just like, hey, what's up? Thanks for coming out to the show. And it's just like, I think it throws people off a little bit, but
of course. Well, it's kind of cool to be able to like release that energy out in like a healthy environment and just like, you know, put it out through your art. Yeah,
you nailed it. That's the whole baseline theme is like, it's weird. We write about things that's shit that like you don't really talk about day to day, or like stuff that you are told not to, or is like taboo to talk about, like being depressed and being pissed off and all this kind of shit. And it's very cathartic. Like I write music when I'm at my lowest. It's like a place for me to put all this shit so I can like put it there, breathe, and move on. So I don't hang on to it. And when we play live, it's about creating a space for other people to tap into that same energy and just like leave all their shit in the pit. You know, it's just like you can come out, no matter what state you're in, the music's gonna start, you're gonna get into it, you're gonna release all this crazy pent up energy in you, and then you're gonna leave like feeling better. And that's kind of the overarching principle of like what we're trying to do with our music.
Yeah, I find making music videos can be very therapeutic for me. You know, girl breaks my heart or something like that, and it's just like, I'm gonna make a sad music video.
That's tight.
Yeah,
you know,
and
awesome.
It just makes me feel better, and so then I'm like, fuck
totally, because it allows you to like process as you create. You're like, why am I feeling this way? And you're right. Like for me, it's like I'm writing these lyrics, and I'm like, where the fuck is this coming from? Like, I didn't get hurt this bad. You know, like, it's like,
at least I don't think I did.
Yeah, I'm sad, but like, god damn, who hurt this guy, right? So it's this whole other thing where it allows you like through the creative process to like really become introspective about your experience and reflect on it and move past it, and hopefully, or if you're ever, in my case, like if ever I'm feeling pissed off, I just listen to my music and I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. Woo, okay, now we can move on from it, right?
Yeah. And growing up, was metal like a giant part of your life? Because you and your brother both play in metal bands.
Yeah, totally. Living Machines, shout out.
Accidentally put this T-shirt on, and this is Living Machines T-shirt. Your brother Quinn is the lead in that band as well, right?
Yeah, totally. He's the band dad.
The band dad.
Yeah, totally. So every band has a dad, so to speak. So yeah, and he is theirs for sure.
So was it just all metal growing up, or?
You know, the older I get, the less I listen to it, but it doesn't mean I don't listen to very much of it either. It's kind of that weird, like, I've learned to appreciate other things, but yeah, at one point in my life, if you didn't listen to metal, fuck off. Like, it was so like, yeah, I don't know what the word is for it, but yeah, it was definitely, that was that kid.
Yeah.
Like, fucking Slayer shirt and whatever band, belt buckle, a backpack with speakers on, just blaring the most ignorant shit, walking around the hallways at high school. It was so out of control and over the top. But yeah, huge part of my life, man. Absolutely. I was a pretty sad and pissed off teenager for the most part. So it allowed me to kind of like listen to stuff that I'm like, oh damn, like I relate to this. And it's kind of the same, going back to what I was talking about. It allows you to kind of feel some almost like comfort and familiarity with like these emotions you're experiencing that are typically, if you bring them to the surface, like you're gonna kind of get looked at like, oh, is this guy okay? Like maybe you need some fucking help, dude. And like, and there's nothing wrong with seeking help either. Like I've had plenty of help throughout my journey, right? But it's a long-winded way to say, yeah, metal is and always will be a big part of what my experience.
I feel like people who don't listen to metal don't realize how like introspective and deep it can be sometimes.
Dude, for sure.
Like I was reading the lyrics to "Walk" by Pantera, right?
Yeah,
and I was just like, this is actually talking about like leaving behind your fake friends, basically. And I'm like, there's actually a lot of lessons in this, but you hear it and it's just dudes just screaming and getting angry and like,
yeah, totally.
So it's kind of wild.
It's fucking wicked, man. And it's like, it's a bonding agent, and that's what's so cool is like going back to like the shows and creating that space for people to feel a certain way and to come together around these types of feelings and have conversations about it, like real fucking talks about it, either before or after the show. And like, you know, I've had people come up to me after, like, I remember, I'll never forget this. A fan of ours came up to me after one of our shows and was like, man, thank you so much for writing about all the fucked up shit that I think in my head and I'm too afraid to say out loud.
Wow.
And that was a really crazy feeling, because for me, when I put all this stuff out initially, I'm like, someone's going to think I'm nuts. Someone's going to think I'm some Unabomber type psycho and that I'm off kilter as fuck. And it's, and it was a really cool moment that I'm never going to forget that, because it's like, damn, okay, cool. Like, people get it.
Yeah.
People get it more than I thought they would. And that's really comforting in a weird way, because it's like, it's really soul-bearing shit. You're talking about, like, what you're experiencing at your lowest moment. At least for me, it's like when whatever I'm writing about is like me at my low, like the low. So it's, it's really cool for people to, like, see me, but also know it isn't, like, who I am in a weird way.
Right.
Which is like the mask also kind of helps with that, I think, too.
I've always been surprised with how kind and open the metal community is a lot of the time as well. Like, some of the nicest people I've met are like, they got hair past their elbows and they got tattoos all up and they're wearing a Slayer shirt.
Totally.
And they're just like, hey, bro, how's it going?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like that sea of black shirts and camo pants. Like you can find some real homies in there. Like, it's some real cool, genuine people that are like probably more in tune with like who they are and what they're experiencing, like emotionally or spiritually or whatever you want to call it, than like the average human being. Because like you said, there's that thing where you all of a sudden you just get it. You're like, damn, okay, cool. Like they're writing about this and I feel that. So now you get a room full of people like that. Well, damn, the energy is electric, man. It's insane. And it's, as much as it's like physically energetic too, like people are shoving each other and doing all this crazy shit. I'm not sure if you've ever experienced it, but if you ever drop in a pit, you're going to have like all the biggest dudes blocking a hole around you, picking you up and making sure you're okay before anything goes on.
Yeah.
If bands see it, usually they'll stop the show if somebody gets really hurt. Like that's very much about like, we're kind of like a family that way.
It's like the unspoken laws of
totally.
Of the pit.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and if you're out there to hurt people, you can take that shit somewhere else, because there's no fucking room for you here.
Yeah.
It's not about that. You don't go to a metal show to hurt people. You go to a metal show to like let your shit out. It's a huge difference in the way you like channel that energy.
Do you think the metal scene just like worldwide has died off a little bit?
Oh, I don't know. I think that at least locally, from what I've seen, it was gaining a lot of traction heading into like the pandemic, if you will. Like, it's the last few local shows that we did and that other bands did. It's not even really unique to us. Like, they were all sold out. There aren't big enough venues to hold what we're doing in this town. And we did a tour. I guess it would have been the fall before the pandemic hit. And same kind of thing, like big crowds pretty much everywhere. It was the reception to what we're doing is amazing, and to what the metal community is doing is amazing. Like, heavy music is starting to really take its place, and more so than I think it did before, if anything.
Nice.
I think that shows are obviously right now, like, we're going to be the last ones to come back to the stage. Like, indie artists and all the rest of it, anybody who can get away with a sit-down crowd or a nightclub crowd or all that kind of stuff, they're going to come first. And that's cool, but, like, we're going to be the last ones to show up. But I think when we do, I think that's going to be huge. I think it's going to be, like, a second wave of people realizing, like, damn, you know what? This is the music that got me through this shit. And I think a lot of people even might have tapped into metal music and the metal community going through the pandemic, being like, damn, like, I'm sad, I'm pissed off, or whatever kind of emotion they're feeling, right? It's like it's somewhere for you to feel that, and somewhere for you to just go into that, right? And so I think that I mean, I could be totally off base or totally wrong, but I really think that there's going to be a huge kind of like, second wave, if you will, of like metal community support coming out of this.
Yeah, well, I think just shows in general are going to pop off after, like, people are just gassed up to be out and be around people and celebrate. And so whatever your genre of choice is, like, I think you're just going to double down on it and go crazy.
Exactly.
How did Ugly form as a group, and how did it kind of all start?
Oh man, so that's going back to me being real sad and real mad. I was going through. It was coming out of a relatively complicated breakup, and I lost a friend as well to the fentanyl epidemic, which is a whole other sad thing. Yeah, thanks, man. It's is what it is. It's in a weird way. The band wouldn't exist without that kind of shit happening, which is awful and great all at the same time. It's never been clear like how to feel about that, but
yeah.
I wrote a few songs, and my brother Quinn, whose shirt you're sporting right now, him and I, we've always been like metal kids together, showing each other this and that, and he's actually an audio engineer. Like he's a very talented one at that. So and songwriter and musician and all the rest of it. So I kind of showed him what I was up to. He's like, bro, let's sit down and record them. Like, I'll do that for you for sure. You're my brother. Let's just have some fun with it and write some fucking music, right? Like, I'll help you piece all this shit together and
nice.
Put some vocals down over it. Do what we got to do. So we did all that, pieced them together, threw some production at it, and he's like, you know what? This is actually pretty good. You should maybe like think about putting some money into getting it like mixed and mastered by somebody who's like got a better skill set, or not better, but a more profound skill set at the time, let's say. So I sought someone out to do that, who in our community, his name is Jordan Chase, Oodalali Recordings. He's the grand master of all things coming out of the Valley right now, at least in the heavy music scene. I was fortunate enough to have him like totally get what I was going for and put an amazing production spin on the first set of songs, which is on an EP of ours called Vile, which is also the name of the character that I play who wears that mask.
Oh, dope.
So he kind of did all that, and then we're kind of like, hey, well, let's, maybe to get the release going, like, let's put a band together and play a show. Like, it was never intended to be like, hey, do you want to join this band or whatever? My brother literally tapped into his like massive network from being a lifelong musician and was like, hey, we want to play a couple of hardcore shows. We need a guitar, like a whole band lineup. What do we got? So a bunch of people get at him because he's like the dude he is. and so we threw this lineup together and we played a show, and people really liked it. So then we got asked to play another one, and then another one after that. And then we got asked to go on tour with a band called Plead out of Calgary. So then we did our first tour, and then we did another couple of local shows. And then we got asked to go on tour with a band who at the time were called Technical Damage and have since recently changed their name to No Light Escapes. We were actually supposed to go on tour the week that everything shut down for the pandemic.
No.
That was the week that we were scheduled to be on the road. And oddly enough, the week before that, we're like, all this shit's kind of happening in the news, and we're like, okay, like this is getting kind of serious. Like maybe we should not consider not encouraging people to get into these little rooms and get real sweaty and really close to each other.
Like what's your responsibility?
Yeah,
at that
exactly.
point?
Like
yeah.
a responsibility as an artist to your community. You're like, we just didn't really feel right about it. So we actually pulled out of the tour, and within 4 or 5 days, every single venue we were supposed to be playing had shut down.
No way.
So it's not like not talking us up in any way, but it was just kind of funny how like circumstantially it wouldn't happen anyways. Whether we wanted to do it or not, we would have never gone on that tour. So that's kind of the whole trajectory of what we've been up to. And then we had a song we were sitting on for a little bit leading up to that tour. So we released it in the fall, and then since then have gone through some lineup changes and everything. The pandemic helped people like reprioritize what they were up to. And a lot of the guys that were in our initial lineup, which again was never really supposed to be like this band. We were just a few dudes playing shows together. They were in other projects. Those things blew up. They moved on. We've done a total rebuild on our sound, our lineup, everything since then. So which brings us to tomorrow, when our first song and since the fall comes out. So yeah, it's exciting, man. It's really cool. It's been a crazy ass journey up to this point.
And where can people find the song? What's it called? It's going to
be it's called Lacerate, and it's going to be on Spotify and Apple Music and pretty much every other streaming service under the sun. Yeah, totally. So,
and do you guys know when your first show is going to happen, or?
Right now I'm not going to reveal too much, but we're very close to locking in a show for Halloween.
Nice.
So being who we are, we want to kind of lean into like the horror kind of vibe and really send it on like an epic Halloween show. So that'll be our first show coming back out of this pandemic, which hopefully, if everything lines up to the projected reopening schedule, will not only be in and around then, it will have been enough of a buffer between that date and the date of the show to really let people start feeling comfortable or getting vaccinated or whatever they need to do to really make a good show come. Because it'd be exciting to do it right when it opened up, but are people going to feel comfortable enough going out? Are people, there's so many variables involved, so we're trying to think like, how do we get to the stage soon but not too soon? So
interesting.
That's kind of it. So we're shooting at Halloween, baby. That's the move right now.
That could be wild. That could be crazy, because Halloween in general is like a pretty wild night to go out partying, but like the first Halloween back after a pandemic, That's gonna be nuts.
And and the guys that we're talking with about getting on that show are some very rad bands. So yeah, I think that it's gonna be. I think it's if everything lines up, and I don't want to jinx the shit, so knock on wood once more, just for good measure. But yeah, it's that's what we're shooting for.
Sick, crazy, man. Yeah, I can't imagine what it would be like being a performer and somebody who loves to be in front of crowds and people and feel that energy and just not being able to do that like this for the past year and a half.
Dude, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because we've had to like pivot very drastically even in the way we approach, I guess I don't want to say writing music because that's almost like a different thing, but like how we go about being a band. Like, so pre-pandemic, we were a live band. Like, that was our thing. We didn't really care to play the like heavy social media game, all this kind of shit. Like, we were just like, no, come see our show. That'll sell us. Like, we were selling merch. People were asking us to play more shows. That's kind of all we really needed to do at that point. Then the pandemic hit, and we're like, oh, fuck, okay. Like, this might be indefinite. This might be something we really can't get out of. So we need to seriously reevaluate the way that we're putting ourselves out there. So, yeah, we had to take to the keyboard, man, and really figure out a way to, like, how do we communicate our whole vibe and brand essentially to people in a way that resonates with what we're doing in an authentic way, but without giving any live experience.
Right.
Because even for a fair bit there, like, I didn't see any of my bandmates. Like, we didn't, like, no one was comfortable meeting in person even. So it's this whole thing, right? Where, like, how do you exist as a band and write music without being in the same room as people? Like, those are all growing pains that we had to go through, which was awesome. So thankfully, most of us and all of us have, like, some basic type of understanding to a very profound understanding of how to capture and master and record audio. So I've had to go from being the guy who's writing with an unplugged guitar with his phone sitting on his knee and like playing riffs into that shit to being like, okay, cool. Now I need to actually like track the riff, throw it into the chat with the guys, let them listen to it. We all meet by Skype, start talking about it, and one of us will play it through our speakers, and everybody will kind of give their input and be like, the audio sounds like shit, let him play it instead. And like, there's all this kind of crazy crap that went with that. And so yeah, like we've just
grind, man.
Yeah, it really was. It kind of took the fun out of it, if I'm being totally honest. Like, there's a bit there, like we have, like, tomorrow will be the first of 3 new singles that we have coming out between now and Halloween. And those songs, like, there was a point in there where I was like, I don't know if this is gonna break us or not. Like, it was intense to the sense of like it really challenged whether we wanted to be doing this, if we were going about it the right way, who we were doing it with, all these kinds of things. And it's it was definitely a grind. But now coming out the other side, there's a light at the end of the tunnel now, and I can see that shit, and it's so close to being over with that. Like, we're all really reinvigorated by what we're doing now, and it's the timing thankfully is lining up with the music being ready and done and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's been a crazy year and a half or 2 years or whatever you want to call it.
No doubt, man.
Fucking intense, man.
And so during this time when you were going through the pandemic and you were kind of looking at some other stuff, like, is that when the whole denim scratcher thing came to fruition, or have you been doing that for a while?
Yeah, it did. Nice segue. Look at you.
Hey, man, I'm getting better at it.
Over here. Oh, yeah.
My mom complimented me the other day. She was like, you have really good segues. I was like, thanks, Mom.
Damn. That's great. No, so that's actually totally how it kind of came about. It was so denim scratcher thing, for a bit of background, is like essentially like a custom needlework embroidery thing that I do, where I've always been a sucker for like tattoos and shit. And as much as like the idea be cute to be a tattoo artist, I'm like, not really. I don't know if I'd fuck with that, right? But it's I had this kind of concept in mind that I wanted to execute on for the better part of a couple of years, where I wanted to like essentially tattoo or stitch designs into clothing, into t-shirts or hoodies or whatever it was. And then a friend of mine named Kristen, Young Shrub on Instagram.
Shout out Young Shrub.
Yeah, shout out Young Shrub for sure, because I wouldn't exist without her in this regard. She was kind of like, well, I actually do this stuff. Like, I actually know how to like embroider in kind of the style that you're looking for. Like, if you buy this tool,
talented
like,
in
dude,
so many different ways also.
She's unreal. Yeah, like, as a photographer, visual artist, in like fashion, just like everything. The first set of photos that ever were taken for the Denim Scratcher project were actually taken by her, which is like super special. So she basically was like, if you get this tool and whatever, and here's a couple basic things, and like I'll give you kind of like a Cole's Notes walkthrough on how to do it. And from there it was kind of like, okay, cool. Like, I think I have the general gist of this. Now we just need to figure out how the fuck to actually materialize it. So I had this one shirt, like a long sleeve denim shirt that a friend of mine gave me, like chopped some sleeves off and a collar, and I just started banging all these random designs into, just as like a kind of learning practice piece almost. And then Grey Hearts opened up. So I'm like, oh, these denim guys, I should probably show them this thing that I made just for fun, right? So I kind of went in there one day wearing it and all nervous and shit. And I'm like, hey, like, look at this thing I made. And I'm like, damn, dude, that's really fucking cool. Like, pick anything you want out of the store and stitch something into it for us. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what do you mean? You just, like, we barely know each other. They're like, yeah, but like, look what you did. Do more of that.
Fuck yeah.
And if us giving you a piece to work on and to collaborate with us, like, gets you further into that, then like, fuck yeah. So that was like a really kind of crazy moment as well, where they're like, yeah, here you go. Pick whatever you want. This jacket, sweet. It was like this dope, like vintage Lee jeans jacket, which Kristen helped me kind of push. She pushed me very far in the concept development process. Cause like, of course she's the first one I call. I'm like, hey, the guys, like, they're pushing me, they want me to do this thing. And I'm thinking like, maybe if I just do their logo and like a couple little hearts on the cuffs. And she's like, or you could just do what you want to and do your thing and not try to do something safe. Like, push it, man. Like, do something that you think is really fucking cool, because that's what this is supposed to be about, as a collaboration piece. I was like, damn, okay, cool, thank you, art mom. So I
band dads and art moms.
Yeah, seriously, it's a trip, man. I'm super thankful to be surrounded by people that are like my brother, like Kristen, like the Grey Hearts guys, who have just like essentially like pushed me almost not against my will, but like really given me a huge kick in the ass to be like, stop being so scared. Like, just go fucking create stuff just for the sake of enjoying it and putting what you want out there. So I did this whole piece, and thankfully that jacket was super well received, and it's called the Loverboy jacket.
Nice. Yes, I saw that at B&A at the pop-up shop there for the first time.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, it's funny because it wasn't a cheap piece. It wasn't super expensive either, but it's not like it's about money at that point. But it's like I put a lot of hours into that thing, and it was.
You need to be compensated for your work.
It was very unique, and it was one of a kind, not only jacket but artwork and application and all the rest of it. So again, part of the fear thing and me being like, I don't know if anyone's gonna like this. I don't know if anyone's gonna care or whatever. And then it sold. And it's like, oh fuck. Okay.
What was that feeling like?
It was insane.
Yeah.
It was so surreal. And then funnily enough, a friend of mine knows the guy who bought it. And like they posted a photo on their Instagram like a couple of months later, and he tagged me in it, and I was like, what the fuck?
You're like,
so
am
cool.
I famous?
And in my back of my head, I'm like, you made it, baby. It was a trip. So yeah, there's like some dude cruising around out there with a piece of art that I made with my hands, like, and he wears it every day essentially. It's just like that kind of feeling is insane. So it really kind of poured some fuel on the flames, if you will, to kind of keep me going in that regard. So now I've got a whole line of music inspired jackets, actually, one of which is a tribute to the very same shirt I'm wearing right now, oddly enough. That's going to be dropping in like late summer, essentially, through Grey Hearts.
And where can people buy some of your denim scratching gear? Is it denim scratching? Like, is that a term you came up with, or is that what the actual craft is?
I was like dicking around looking up kind of things, because like it's like we're about to drop the Loverboy jacket, and I didn't have an identity as an artist, and I was like, what about like Baylan? What about like just Baylan? Like just shit like that. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute, let's break it down from like a brand development perspective. Like, hey, what are you doing? You're like tattooing, but like DIY and not really. And so I'm doing the classic like Google synonym thesaurus wormhole. And whether this is validated or not, somebody at some point wrote it down on the internet and said like a scratcher is like a term for somebody like a self-taught tattoo artist, essentially, like somebody who didn't do an apprenticeship or didn't really do any of that shit. And I was like, well, ain't that fun? Denim scratcher. And it just kind of, that's just what I've stuck with ever since then, and it somehow has caught on. It's really, really cool, man.
It's humbling. So are you just running it through your Instagram, or do you have a website people can go to?
I only have it on my Instagram right now, and the only pieces I really have available for sale are all available at Grey Hearts right now.
Cool.
At some point I definitely want to like extrapolate what I'm doing into a bit more of a, maybe using me as the hub instead of someone else as the hub. But right now it just feels right. Like, those guys have been in my corner since like day one of doing this whole thing, and they're the ones they're kind of like my my Peter Parker spider bite. They're like my origin story, right?
Nice.
So it's so I'm like, it just feels right to go do everything through them right now. They're like, they're massive supporters of mine, and I want to be a big supporter of theirs. So it's kind of this whole little community that they've created that I'm lucky enough to be a part of. So
Hells yeah.
Yeah, so any denim scratcher goods are all available at Grey Hearts Denim.
There you go. All right, we're gonna take a quick break and
You know
hear
I
from our
keep you
sponsors.
around, yeah, you know that I mean it. Knock the temperature down. I love that you fuck with me now, cause you know I keep you around, yeah, you know that I mean it. Not turning the temperature down. I'm with you when I ain't around. Wanted to get we out, yeah, you know I mean it. 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 You know that I mean it. Yeah, roll up a spliff and I bounce. Roll up, we rolling it out. With you, I'm wearing the crown.
Basically, fucking specimen. In his first press conference, he like has the Coca-Cola bottle on there, and like that's their sponsor. And he like looks at it, and he's just like, and he puts it under the table. And Coca-Cola lost millions, if not $1 billion, off of that one move.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's kind of baller.
It's hella baller.
That's
dude.
pretty dope.
Well, we're back, and speaking of sports, first off, do you consider snowboarding a sport?
Yeah, I kind of have to, I think. I mean, it's in the Olympics at this point, right? So
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
if it's in the Olympics.
yeah,
it's a
totally. If
sport.
people get paid to do it and it's in the Olympics, and all right, it's a sport. Fair enough.
Because I've always known you as an artist, through your music and then through denim scratching and stuff like that. But I've heard whispers and rumors of you being a pro snowboarder.
I was never pro technically, because you gotta be on payroll for that shit, right?
Okay.
But at one point in time I was a competitive snowboarder. I like to say, yeah, for sure. I got paid in product essentially,
You had a big sponsor, right?
I had a few, yeah.
A few.
I
Okay.
had a few, yeah.
Sounds pretty pro, dude.
Totally. Yeah, I don't know. Snowboarding is a kind of interesting world that way, where like it is definitely like a hierarchy you work up within the sport. So like for instance, some sponsors of mine would be what's considered a flow rider. So you would be and there's two different types of flow rider. You're either direct flow, which means the company is like somebody in whatever company is sending you the product directly, or in my case you're like rep flow, where the sales representative of that company, like, so they'll hire sales agents to sell their products to independent shops and all this kind of stuff. Those guys have a promo budget. So what they like to do is find riders like myself at the time, where you're doing the competing, you're filming video parts, and you're doing all that kind of stuff. So they hook you up with a bunch of shit. You still technically ride for that company because you're within that hierarchy, but it's like, it's kind of the bottom of the totem pole, so to speak, right? So some companies I worked with, I guess. I was like direct, and some companies I was rep.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, totally. So that's kind of like the breakdown a little bit, not to get too technical. But
And how did you get into all that? Like, obviously, growing up snowboarding as a kid, like Big White and stuff, or?
Yeah, so I started snowboarding because my parents are very athletic. Like, my mom was a pro figure skater, my dad was an amateur cyclist, and they we've always been like a very like athletic family. Like, we played all the team sports growing up and all that shit. But we never had one that we all did together. So my folks one day were like, hey, you know what? Let's learn how to snowboard. We live in Prince George at the time. We're like, we live in fucking winter wonderland out here. Like, let's learn how to do something together as a family. So we we all took snowboard lessons. We went to Sport Mart and bought a bunch of shit, and that's kind of
exactly
it.
what my family did.
Is
also.
it really?
Yeah,
That's tight.
We moved from Maple Ridge to Kelowna. My dad sold his business, was balling for a minute there, and he was just like, let's learn how to fucking snowboard and ski. And
That's
he was
so tight.
Yeah, we bought the whole thing. We did it as a family. None of us do it anymore. I was trash. It took me 4 years to learn how to toe turn.
Damn.
So for 4 years, I'm just going down this way, down every single hill, bro. So
Just
I was
zigzagging.
garbage, man.
Oh, dude.
And my friends were all skiers and stuff. So then, like, you get down like Surwas on Big White. It's
So
like,
not only were you a snowboarder, you were bad at it. So like
was
your friends are like, dude, like we gotta fucking avoid this guy. Like it's gonna be contagious for sure.
100%, man. None of the cool dudes hung out with me up on that hill, man.
Damn.
So, yeah. And then the skiers are like pulling following me on like the flat parts, and I'm trying to like jump and shit. And it just fucking sucks, dude.
And then you're like, weird. Why is no one inviting me to go riding with them? I don't get it.
Yeah, they would only invite me on New Year's Eve and stuff like that when we could go party later that night because I'm a fun guy to party with, I think. So
Yeah.
that was about it.
Yeah, we've had beers together. You're a blast.
So you ended up, you were in Prince George. The family decided to buy a bunch of gear.
Yeah.
Learned as a family.
Yeah.
And you just fell in love with it?
Yeah, totally. Because I became like pretty possessed by it for sure. It's like it's like it feels like flying, man. Like there's no friction beneath your feet. You're just going as fast as you fucking can, and then you can hit a bump and literally soar through the air. I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do every day forever. Now it's a little different, but like every time I just because I'm older now and I got other shit going on in my life, but every time I hear the sound of like ratchet straps clicking onto my feet, I'm like, oh my god, yes, this is me. It's just built into my soul at this point, man. I fucking love it so much. It's I don't think that'll ever change. I don't think there's the minute I strap in, I feel like I'm that same like little kid again, just ripping around with his friends on the hill doing stupid shit. Nice. Because that's all it really like brings you back to.
Well, in the culture of just like boarding, like whether it's snowboarding or skating, surfing, like whatever, it's like it has roots in being like a counterculture thing and like being free. And so I feel like everybody taps into that a little bit.
Yeah, it's like it's like the freaks and geeks thing, man. Like you're just a bunch of misfits, like, and not even necessarily that, because like I mean misfit in the sense of like you deviate from conventional athleticism. Like I was good at team sports and like played a lot of them, if not all of them, at one point or another, but I just had more fun doing this. Right. And I didn't have to deal with coaches or jock dickheads or some dude's dad wanting his kid to get more playtime, or it was like your shit speaks for yourself, man. Like if you're riding a board and you ride it a certain way and ride it well, or even not even well, but like if you just ride it in a cool, comfortable way, like people are going to acknowledge that. And that's kind of it. Like I've for lack of a better term, just been possessed by this shit since I started doing it. And it kind of came to like, you know, you're this little kid hanging around the snowboard shop, Island Snow at the time, which like
that was up at where was that at?
That was near what is it? It's just off the highway now, like it's near the Save-On and everything. It's turned into a nature's fair.
Oh, really?
So yeah, Island Snow and Deviate were the two shops that became one board shop, which I'm still luckily enough to be a part of.
Oh, tight.
Shout out One Board Shop. So like Island Snow was my first ever sponsor, because I was like hanging around there just being the little shred rat kid, and I'm just like, put me on the team, put me on the snowboard team, fucking please put me on the snowboard team, like I'll buy whatever you want. They're like, that's not what it's about, man. I'm like, oh god damn, tell me then, what do I gotta do? So the one guy who was running the team at the time was like, you gotta place in a contest or something. You gotta fucking show me that you're good enough to be a part of this team, and then like you're in. But I can't just hand it to you. That shit doesn't work like that, which was a really cool lesson to learn at that time. So I went to a contest, and like,
how old were you at this time?
I wasn't driving yet, so I was like 15 or 16 at this time. Okay. Because my buddy's mom drove us to Mount Baldy. I have only won 2 contests in my life. The first one I ever entered, I don't know fucking how that happened.
Damn.
And a rail jam at Big White on my 29th birthday, so like a couple years ago at like sessions or whatever. I'm just like, I'm the old dude in the squad. I'm just like, I was right there by myself. None of my friends were there. I was just like, fuck it. It was my birthday, and I'm taking mushrooms and drinking and shit. And I'm smoking weed at the top, and I don't know anyone there. They're just like, who the fuck is this guy?
Just the veteran.
Just like dressed in all black, listening to metal music. Like, God, this is ridiculous. And somehow I won a contest at 29 years old. I was like, what is happening?
Medal and were you on a podium on mushrooms or anything?
No, I was just like hanging. I wasn't that messed up on it. I was having fun with it for sure, but I wasn't like, holy shit. Yeah, it was weird because like they're calling the names out, and like I thought I like maybe got third or whatever, because I had friends who were judges and shit. So I was like, there's no way I'm gonna win. Not a chance. I'm the old guy. I got friends who were judges. It's never gonna happen. They call out third place, and then they're like, nah. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, that's fine. Maybe got second. Called out second place, and then they said someone else's name, and I was like, shit, not my day. And then they called my name out for first. I was like, what? I literally at the top of it, I was like, what the fuck? And I cruised up there, and then there was never really a prize on the docket. And then as I'm up there, the buddy who was like emceeing the contest or like running it or whatever, he was pretty wasted at the time. And then he's just like, you know what? Fuck it. We're giving you $500. And I was like, what? Yeah, most money I've ever won from snowboarding ever in my life. And I was like, this is insane. And I don't think he realized it at the time, but like there's a skier category too.
Oh,
so
no.
like, and they had already gone through all the shit.
So
and
they're
so
like,
now he's
"Where's our
like,
$500
fuck, I gotta pay another $500 to that guy. Oh no, god damn it, what have I done? Yeah, it was pretty funny, man.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so I don't know. So yeah, I'm some little kid, and my buddy's mom drives us out to this contest, somehow win it. And I called Buddy from like from my buddy's mom's cell phone. I called Buddy at the shop and was like, dude, I won the contest. He's like, you're on the team. And just like, that's it. One of the best days of my life.
Sick,
Never going to forget
dude.
that shit. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it was a good time.
And so what are you doing for competitions? Like, is it like half pipe?
I usually did rail jams. I was more of a rail rider for sure. Big White is a great mountain to learn how to ride powder, ride all mountain. They had a really good park program for a really long time, which is kind of, hit or miss depending on who's in charge or who's building it now and everything. No diss, just practical.
Yeah.
But Big White usually produces pretty good rail riders. I'm lucky enough to be part of that crew of riders, I guess. So like, yeah, I just rode a lot of rail contests, and like being a skateboarder growing up as well, that was a big influence for me to like get into snowboarding almost. It was like, damn, I can hit bigger rails, I can go faster, I can go bigger, all that shit. So that was always a big draw for me. So I kind of approached snowboarding as a skateboarder for a lot of years, and probably still do, whether I know it or not. So yeah, just rode a lot of rail jams at a bunch of different mountains all over like BC and Alberta and shit, and just kind of I got like the shop would hook us up with a bit of gas money, and sponsors would send you shit every time you did well, or like every year they'd like re-up you on like new boards and new jackets and all this kind of crap. So like, yeah, for a few years there, it was like my life was a fucking trip, man.
No
I just
doubt,
got to
man.
like go cruise around with my friends and like whip cameras out and film each other doing crazy shit on our boards, and yeah, just it was a blast.
I never really did like I loved skateboarding when I was really, really young, but I never got good at it. And then I was always drawn more to team sports. Like I love being on a team. And that's part of the reason why I love like the Greyhearts boys and like everything they got going on there. Is it just feels like a community and a team. And so I never got into it crazy, but one of the things that inspired me the most to get into filmmaking was like snowboard videos and skateboard videos.
No shit.
And like especially like King of the Road and stuff on Viceland and stuff.
Totally.
Like I was like, man, why can't I be one of those
Bro,
video
you gotta
guys
check out one of the
filming all those dudes?
OG King of the Roads before Vice got their grips into it. It was gnarly.
Yeah, dude,
like,
it was
it was
crazy. Like, it was like
sure.
Thrasher magazine was the first people that
Yeah,
started
exactly,
it, right? And
yeah.
even the photos, I used to always buy the magazines just because
Yeah.
I loved the culture around it, but I never did it much. But
like,
yeah,
you can read interviews of guys just like talking about like being in jail or like doing crazy shit on the road, and
just
like
that misfit vibe, right?
Totally.
Like,
you're like reading this, you're like, wait, what? Like, who printed this? Like, how is this? Are you allowed to say this? It was this like, yeah. I remember reading a few interviews like that when I was younger, and it didn't make sense to me that was like a thing, right? But that's what was so fucking cool about it. I'm like, my idols are guys that are covered in shitty tattoos and have like jumped down stairs for fun. Like,
yeah, and drinking
who do you hang
beers
out
on the
with,
side,
right?
and
Like,
then
yeah.
having to fucking half pipe, and
And that's the other thing of it too, is like there's this weird kind of, and that's dwindling out, thankfully. There's always kind of like, because of the counterculture and rebellious thing, it's like, no, like to be a skater, like you got to be like fucked up and like landing tricks and all that kind of stuff, which like really thankful that I, like my friends and I never really fell into that, and that it's now come to a point where like it's kind of not getting rooted out, but there's room for like the clean cut type of like rider now in the scene, which is great because it allows the sport to get pushed further by guys who are like eating healthy, stretching, taking care of themselves, sleeping well, like all that kind of stuff that like
again, you're an
you were
athlete at the
taught
end
that
of the
you
day.
almost like had to do the opposite of that to be a part of the sport.
Totally.
Because there was like, you had to earn your place, but what you didn't realize is that just by doing it, you were earning that place.
yeah.
Right?
Well, who's that one skateboarder? He's like sponsored by Onnit and stuff now. I don't know.
Neen Williams.
Neen
Yeah,
Williams.
he's a
Yeah,
perfect
like-
example of that. One of these dudes who was just like partying his ass off and fucking up his body all like for years, and then all of a sudden was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And now he's like years sober.
Clean
All he
cut.
does is like cook great food and work out and skateboard, and it's
Yeah.
tight as hell. Like
And he's, like, one of the
such
best
a
in the world,
fucking
right?
role model, man. Like. I don't. That's a weird, not
Okay.
weird, but that's an interesting statement because like nobody's the best at it. That's what's so cool about it. Like
Interesting.
there's people that are real fucking good at it. There's always going to be those types, but no one can technically be the best.
Right.
Like, there's no benchmark. There's no World Cup. There's no. I mean, even if you get an Olympic gold medal, just means you rode well that day against a bunch of other dudes that
Right.
could have got it just as easily
course.
as you. right? So that's what's really cool about it, though.
I guess
It's
there's
like
no like league that happens like each year. That
there are now.
Okay.
Like in skateboarding, it's called Street League, but then again, like a lot of amazing skateboarders don't even make it past qualifiers.
Right.
They don't even want to be a part of it. So who's the best? Nobody. That's the best thing about it, though, because it's like music too. Like there's always going to be someone better than you.
Right.
Always, no matter what. Even the guys that you think are the best, they've got people they look up to for whatever reason. So I think that's what I've always been drawn to for it. You know, like
it's like snowboarding and like skateboarding and that kind of thing. Is it like, because like art is subjective, right? So like one person could say this is the greatest musician of all time, and then another person will say somebody else.
Totally.
That's the same with
it's just like that.
Damn.
Totally. And it is also an art form
It
too,
is an art
because the
form,
way
for
you
sure.
approach, let's say you're looking at a rail or a set of stairs or something like that, what you choose to do on that day might not even be the same as what you would do the next day or the day after that or the day after that, or the same as what the guy next to you is doing. And even if two of you do the exact same trick on the exact same rail, you're going to do it differently just based on the way your body moves and the way you go ahead to get into it and come out of it, how fast you go and all that kind of shit. And that's what to me has always been so fascinating. It's like art in motion in a weird way. You know what I mean? It's like you're interacting with, it's like I heard a quote like ages ago. I'm trying to remember it now. It's like a physical reaction to industrial architecture in a weird way.
Whoa.
It's like skateboarding and snowboarding, especially on like the more snowboarding more so in the like street snowboarding kind of thing. You're interacting with these like concrete jungle environments, and we wouldn't exist without those. So it's like a humanistic reaction to infrastructure in a weird way.
That's wild.
Yeah, totally.
That's how I view MMA and fighting now, also as like an art form. Like there's this like beautiful kind of technique and flow that some of the best fighters in the world can get into, and it's a sport as well, but it's definitely an art form. Like you have to master it to a certain extent in order to
and I think
succeed.
mastery is a really interesting word for that, because like skateboarding and snowboarding have taught me, if anything, you can try something for years, thousands of times. Once you do it once properly, something happens in your brain, and you just look at it differently, completely. In that moment, it fucking changes you. And so who's to say you don't need to try something in your life 1,000 times before you get it right once? All you need to do is get it right that one time. That's what's so cool about it. It's a game of odds, but you're playing with yourself. Like, it's
and so
fucking
much
awesome.
Perseverance also. Like people
absolutely
beat the shit out of their body to
tenacity,
get
man.
one trick. I follow this one account called Upworthy, and it's just like it's one of my favorites because it's just dead set on posting only positive stuff onto its Instagram.
That's
and
dope.
there was a video today of this girl who was practicing a kickflip.
Yeah.
And she's just practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing, and then she finally lands it once, and the joy that she had and the passion that she had was just like it was intoxicating, right?
I love that.
The scream she made was just so awesome, and it was like,
totally,
hell yeah, man! Like that is so cool.
Every person who's ever skateboarded in their fucking life remembers that. You remember your first ollie, your first kickflip, you know what I mean? Like those are the few things that, like, no matter who you are, if you roll up to the skate park and you're learning how to kickflip, if any of those dudes think they're too cool and they're making fun of you, fuck those guys, because they're forgetting where they came from, man. Every single one of us who does this shit had at some point or another to sit there and go, okay, wait, what do I need to do with my feet? Like, how do I do this? You see, I need to jump and flick the fucking, like, what the hell's going on here? So it's like, it's this crazy thing where like, that's the bonding agent. It's everybody's gone through it.
Yeah.
Every single person. So people, I love watching those videos of people landing their first kickflip. I'm like, this is a trip, because it takes you right back to your first one. Mine was in my parents' driveway when I was like 12 or 13 or some shit like that. I'm never gonna forget it. It's just a part of you.
That's so wild.
Yeah,
dude.
it's crazy. It's super cool though. It's like, that's why no matter who you see pushing a skateboard around, you can kind of look at them and be like, I see you.
Did you get more of I don't know if the correct term is like an adrenaline rush or like fulfillment from landing like a giant trick, or like one that you've been practicing for a really long time trying to land, or being on stage and like absolutely crushing a show?
That's really interesting. I've never thought about that. I think that they're comparable. Like being on stage is really interesting, because going back to what we were talking about, the subject matter of like the music, like it's really deep and personal and introspective and cathartic and fucking energetic and all the rest of it. But snowboarding can kind of be like that too. Snowboarding or skateboarding or whatever, like depending on what you're feeling like that day or what you're listening to at that time and like the relationships in your life, they all weirdly enough kind of influence what you're doing. So, and when you land that trick, like maybe you're going through like a rough bout in your life and all of a sudden you land a really hard trick that you've been trying for years. Like it might mean more to you at that point than it would have at another. Right. So it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like I'm talking in circles because I don't know how to answer that. That's a really good question though. Damn, that's a trip.
Because I think like with team sports, I find, maybe it's why I like filmmaking so much also, is because you're always collaborating. Like you can't make a movie or a music video or anything like that by yourself, but like that energy of other people and like the enjoyment that you get as a group is like what I always like love. And I was on a soccer team, a high school soccer team at OKM growing up, the Huskies, and like we crushed it. Like I wasn't the best player on the team by any means. Like I didn't even score a single goal, and this team had like hundreds of goals. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
totally.
But like
you got to be a part of that experience.
I got to be a part of it,
right?
man. And like I literally will never yet again forget the feeling that I had when we finally won the provincial gold medal. And like, yeah, I don't know if I could. I'm kind of waiting for something to like reignite like that passion in me and that feeling in me again.
I get that's really cool that you say that, because I used to really love like being a part of like my snowboard team for that same reason. Like seeing my friends up on the podium, it was like I was up there with them. You're like, dude, like we drove here together, like we all kind of rallied behind you to make sure like you got into finals. Fuck yeah, dude. What do you need? Like it was this really cool kind of like, there was camaraderie involved. And it's funny that you get that from a sport that has got nothing to do with teams, but kind of has everything to do with teams, you know, because it's about like, but you get to choose your team in a weird way. You get to choose who your friends are and like the people you're riding with, at least at that level. Like when you become a pro, it's probably a little different, or maybe not. I don't know. I've never been there, but it's yeah, man, that's like one of the most gratifying things out of snowboarding for me was being a part of like the team that I was a part of at that time, like during the island snow days where seemed like every other weekend we were just going to a different contest, and like, it didn't matter which one of us ended up on the podium, but one of us pretty much always would, because there's like a squad of like 5 or 6 dudes and you're all giving her everything you've got every time you get out there. So like, yeah, it's a game of odds. And all of a sudden, like, yeah, the coin lands heads up once in a while and just so happens to be your friend instead of you, right? But that's you get to kind of enjoy that moment with them.
Totally.
That's what's
you
like
get a piece
so
of it.
empowering too. So it like keeps you wanting to do it like with those people and for those people. And
Totally.
Yeah, it's a feedback loop, a positive feedback loop almost, right?
I'm gonna put you on the spot again, but
oh shit.
I always ask this question because like I love going over to Jack's Pizza and Liquor. Or I guess it's just Jack's now, right?
Jack's on Bernard now.
Jack's on Bernard now. Yeah. And they've got the whole album wall on there. And so if I'm ever trying to like, you know, try to break the ice with a girl or something like that, I'll be like, if you were living on an island and you could only pick 3 of the albums off that wall, like what?
Oh man,
what would you do?
We must be listening to the same shit, because I totally have pulled that move before. Like, what's up, girl? What do you like off the wall? Pick your top 3. Let's deliberate your music interests. Yeah. It's so ridiculous.
So I was gonna ask if you, because I used to love. When I did snowboard, even though I wasn't great at it, I used to curate playlists for when I was riding all the time. Because I played drums growing up. Like I was in a band and shit like that. Like music was my life. So if you could pick 3 songs to, or you know what? Or you can go 3 bands. I'll say 3 bands to listen to while riding, and you only get 3. What would they be?
To listen to while riding? Oh man, okay, I gotta dig into my snowboard playlist for a sec here.
Mine would be Rage Against the Machine for sure. Would have to be on there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I used to listen to Rage all the time. Sure. Nowadays, I feel like I have to pick something like a little bit vibier, like some Mac Miller or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I'll throw Kendrick Lamar on there as well.
Okay. So I'm going to go the opposite direction with that. Metallica's easily on that list, like for sure. I'm a diehard man. I don't care what anybody says. They're fucking awesome.
Of course they're awesome. Who says Metallica isn't awesome?
Oh, dude, that's a debate within the metal community for sure. Up. People talk so much shit just because they're the biggest ones, right? Everyone's gonna like. People talk about how fucking lame Lars is and as a drummer, like all this kind of. It's crazy.
Dude,
like, but
there's that video of them at Woodstock. and I think they're playing in front of 1 million people.
Doesn't surprise me. Yeah, like they're fucking amazing. I got to
That's
see them a
insane.
few years ago. One of the craziest things I've ever
That's
witnessed. Fucking, they're all in their 50s. They're playing for over 2 hours straight. Music that they wrote like 30 years ago at full speed, no breaks. Like, dude, that's a physical game
That's
in
a
and of
feat.
itself. Let alone like they're doing it
100%.
with ease and entertainment and like, yeah, amazing. One of the best bands of ever. Period. Everyone else can fuck off.
Okay, so Metallica's on that.
Metallica's
list.
on that list for sure. Slipknot's probably on that list too. Those are probably my top 2 like metal bands for sure. Damn, number 3, hey, Alexis on Fire.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Alexis on Fire.
Great
for sure.
choice.
Yeah, because they have a really fun balance of like the crazy shit and the pretty stuff and the moody stuff, and it's kind of, they're really fun to listen to when you're writing, because at least for me, like the music I'm listening to will kind of impact what I'm doing on my board. And some days I don't want shit that's balls to the wall. Some days where I'm writing POW, I just want something like pretty and cruisy and kind of, so they can kind of scratch that itch in both senses. Yeah, those would be my 3 bands, I think.
Fuck yeah.
Probably.
I do, but this has been fun, man. This has been fun.
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me to come do this. This is a trip.
Of course. Do you have anything you want to shout out? Let the people know your Instagram. Let them know what projects you have coming up. Maybe shout out the song that's coming out again.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, for all things stitching and fashion related, I'm gonna point at this camera and be like, "What's up, dude?"
That is your camera.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, hit me up on Instagram at Denim Scratcher. All of the band related stuff is at Ugly to the Core. We have a new song coming out called Lacerate, which will be coming out. Basically, it'll be out by the time this comes out, so don't even worry about the date. Just go and fucking listen to it. It's awesome. It'll make you want to break shit in your house and all the rest of it. Come to our show.
On Halloween, we don't know where or when.
Yeah, we don't know. Well, I might know where or when, but I'm not saying shit just yet. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Big Halloween show is going to be coming up. And yeah, I don't know, man. Shout out Grey Hearts Denim, Young Shrub.
Yeah.
Jordan Powers Experience. My brother Quinn for helping all the music shit.
Yeah, shout out Quinn.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out Quinn, Living Machines, all the rest of it.
And Denim Scratcher.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you already shout that out?
I
Or?
did.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, fuck. Well, it's so good it deserves it twice. You know what I'm saying?
Appreciate that. Yeah. Dude, yeah, thanks so much for coming on, like for letting me come and talk about myself.
Don't pull windmills on me and steal my podcast, man.
Yeah, no, I ain't about that. Absolutely not. No, I'm very stoked to be here, though, dude. Thank you very
Hells
much.
yeah, bro. We'll have you on again either before the episode 666 or episode 666 for sure.
Horns up, baby. Let's
Cool.
do it.
We'll put all those links down in the bio. Thanks for listening, people.
Cheers, dude.
Oh, let's get this. Twice in a row.
Making you proud, yeah, yeah. I love that you fuck with me now.